What if the most unforgettable love story wasn't about the happy ending, but about the tears it left behind? A forbidden love story, inspired by true events, tender yet tragic, that moved millions to tears and left an indelible. Follow us, because sometimes the truest stories are more powerful than fiction. In 2019, Taiwan lit a fire that the world could not ignore. While much of Asia was still skeptical about whether same-sex love deserved legal recognition, Taiwan chose to be brave. It became the first country in the region to adopt equal marriage. Think about it. A small island, often forgotten on the world map, suddenly stepped into the spotlight of history, carrying the torch of progress for millions. And from that very land, just 1 year later, a story began to blossom. A film that was not only watched, but cherished. Not only seen, but felt. A film that dared to engrave love in the heart forever. Where did you come to us today? And think back for a moment. When you first heard that Taiwan had become the first country in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage, what did it stir in you? Was it pride? Or relief? Or perhaps disbelief that it had taken the world so long to get here? Whatever you were feeling, share it. I really want to hear your. This film was not released by accident. It was revealed at a pivotal moment, a moment when the world was ready to listen, but still afraid to speak up. And that is why it burns. Because at its heart is the story of Ahan and Birdie, two young men who dared to love in an age where silence was demanded and the truth feared. Yet this is more than just a romance. It is the searing pain of youth, the collision of tradition and freedom, the unshakable burden of a society still struggling to shake off its shackles. When Ahan looks at Birdie, it is more than just longing. It is the silent cry of a generation, the silent heartbeat of a generation forced to love in the dark just to survive. And audiences felt it deeply. The film broke records in Taiwan, far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Then, with the arrival of Netflix, it became a global whisper. From Seoul to San Francisco, from Bangkok to Berlin, people sat in front of the screen and perhaps for the first time saw themselves reflected in it. Have you ever come across a story that originated in another culture, but somehow felt like it was written specifically for you? That's the magic here. Two boys in 1980s Taiwan, but their story belongs everywhere to everyone who has ever known the quiet courage of love. And then there's the unforgettable music. The title track, Your Name Engraved Herein, doesn't just ring, it lingers, echoing long after the last note has died. It has become a hymn to the persistence of love, to memories that are etched into the flesh but never fully healed. Awards have adorned the song, yes, but its true triumph lies in the hearts it has captured. Even now, the moment those opening notes ring out, the listener is transported back to the pain of something once lost, but never truly gone. In addition to its beauty, the film carries history. Taiwan in the late 1980s, martial law has ended, but freedom is still fragile. Voices of protest have been raised, but love lives on in silence. For Ahan and Birdie, the risk is not just rejection, but erasure. Their names will never be remembered, and yet today, we raise our voices. That's why this movie is more than just entertainment. It's a testament, a bridge between Taiwan's struggle for independence, which decades later has regained its independence once again. And when the film came out in 2020, just after the marriage equality law was passed, it felt like a circle was closed, a wound finally acknowledged. Do you believe that cinema has the power to change hearts faster than laws? Because watching Ahan and Birdie, I couldn't help but feel that sometimes a story can soften a nation's heart more than a court of law. And that's the beauty of the story. It's not just Taiwan's story, it's ours. It's the story of anyone who has ever loved in silence, anyone who has ever carried a name in their heart like a secret prayer. How did you feel when you first saw these two people on screen? Did you root for them? Did you feel heartbroken for them? Or did you recall a moment in your life, a face, a name that you had engraved in your memory? Tell me. I want to hear not just what you saw, but what you lived. Ultimately, Your Name Engraved Herein was named the highest-grossing LGBTQ film in Taiwan's history. But the numbers only tell part of the story. Its true success lies in the tears it shed across continents, the conversations it provokes at dinner tables, and the courage it brings to those who are still in hiding. Is it public recognition, the right to marry, or simply the ability to whisper, "I love you" without fear? Think about it and let's talk. Because in the end, Ahon and Birdie's love is not locked in the past. It is a mirror, showing us who we are and who we can become. If this opening tells the story and birth of a landmark film, the sequel will delve even deeper into their world and choices, their suffering. Stay tuned, because what comes next will shake you even more. In the quiet corridors of youth, where laughter often hides the weight of unspoken truths, the story of Ahon and Birdie unfolds like a haunting ballad. Ahon, the gentle soul, the boy whose quiet eyes seem to hold 1,000 unshed tears, carries within him a sensitivity that makes the world both beautiful and unbearably heavy. Birdie, on the other hand, is the storm. He is strong, bold, almost defiant in his demeanor, but beneath those strong shells lie contradictions too painful to face. One boy yearns to feel, the other yearns to escape, and together they form a love that burns, but is never safe. Do you remember your first love? That inexplicable thrill? Your chest tightening with fear and excitement? As you listen to this story, think back. Did your first love bring you joy, or did it leave you with scars that you still feel today? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your story. When Ahon and Birdie first met, the world around them seemed to melt away. A glance across the schoolyard opened up an entire universe. A word, a touch, a fleeting moment, each carried the weight of eternity. In that fragile space, love blossomed, silent and achingly beautiful. But for them, love was never just about two hearts finding a rhythm. It was a fight against expectations, against the whispers of society, against the cold, cruel grip of tradition that weighed heavily on their shoulders. Can you imagine loving someone but never being allowed to express your feelings? Think about that for a moment. And in your country, how does society view stories like this? I'm curious to know your perspective. There was a kiss, soft, fleeting in the darkness. A kiss that burned like fire but also trembled with fear. For Ahon, it was the touch he had longed for all his life. For Birdie, it was a dangerous step toward a truth he had yet to face. This kiss was both a beginning and an end, a promise laced with tragedy. Sweet and tragic, inseparable, it left the audience wondering, was this love or a cruel reminder from fate that not all hearts are free to love? When you see moments like this on screen, do you cry or just sit silently, feeling the pain in your chest? I wonder which part of the story resonates with you the most. Their time together was full of contradictions. Laughter in the light of day, but tears behind closed doors. A secret hug now and then, a painful rejection now and then. Birdie's strength became his shield, but also his prison. Ahon's sensitivity became his gift, but also his burden. And between them, an unspoken truth arose. They loved each other deeply. But love alone was not enough to overcome the fear that lay deep within them. Have you ever felt that conflict? The desire to stay, but the fear that pushed you away? And so, their love story ended not in victory, but in separation. The outside world, with its judgments and demands, tore them apart before they could truly be together. That final goodbye was more than just a goodbye. It was a wound, one that would burn in their hearts for years to come. Ahon left with a tender scar, and Birdie carried the burden of what might have been. It was a love that dared to blossom, but was never allowed to bear fruit. Given the choice, would you rather have a love that breaks your heart but changes you forever, or live a life unscathed, unloved? Think about it and share your truth below. What makes Ahan and Birdie's story unforgettable is not just its sadness, but its resonance across generations. In every culture, people carry with them the fear of revealing their true selves and the burden of being judged for who they love. Their stories remind us of a simple truth: love is never the enemy. The real enemy is silence, the cage of fear, the voices that whisper, "You can't be yourself." Yet even in the midst of their pain, they show us courage, the courage to love. Ahan carries her pain inside, turning her vulnerability into silent suffering. Birdie pushes it out, hiding her fear behind anger, laughter, and denial. But pain always finds its way. No matter how well you hide it, the truth is always waiting to come out. Their love didn't end because they were not devoted. It ended because the world refused to make room for it. Sometimes the saddest part of a story isn't the goodbye, but the what-ifs. What if Birdie had been braver? What if Ahan had spoken louder? What if society had been kinder? Though their paths diverge, their bond endures, not just in their hearts, but in ours. Their love is not a failure. It is proof that even the briefest of loves can leave a lasting mark. And if love requires courage, ask yourself, how much are you willing to risk for it? Take that question with you as we embark on the next of Ahan and Birdie's journey. A story that reflects the first love of millions in the LGBTQ+ community, brought to life in a raw, authentic way on screen. Continuing our journey of discovering Your Name Engraved Herein, we will come to one of the most profound truths. Director once revealed that nearly 80% of the film's content was directly inspired by his own life. Imagine the story unfolding before your eyes, the tears it evokes, the pain it leaves behind, are not born from fiction, but from life experiences. What you see is not just polished dialogue on paper, but pieces of the director's youth, love, and wounds exposed on screen. This turns the film into something more than cinema. It becomes a confession, a diary on screen, and that's why it feels so intimate, so real, so profound. Have you ever watched a movie and felt like someone just confided in you a secret? That's the power here. The director lived through a time when same-sex love was hidden in the dark, hidden behind closed doors, spoken of only in whispers. For him, love was real but forbidden, tender but dangerous. The pain of concealment, of loving someone but not being able to come out, became the backbone of this story. And when you realize that Birdie and Ahan are not just characters, they are echoes of real people, the whole film takes on a new depth. Where are you watching this movie from today? Different lands, different cultures, but the feeling, isn't it the same? The lump in your throat, the ache in your chest, proof that pain knows no borders. Director Liu doesn't just tell us a story. He shows us his scars. He lets us walk through his memories, the music that haunted his youth, the streets he walked, the silence that stifled his voice. In doing so, he turns his personal pain into something larger, something that every viewer can relate to. It's like he's saying, "This is my story, but it could be your story too." And maybe that's why so many viewers broke down watching it. Because it's not just fiction, it's life told authentically. Tell me, did you feel a weight on your shoulders when you first watched the film? Was there a moment when it felt so real, almost like you weren't just watching but remembering? Think about it. How often do we get to see such vulnerability from a filmmaker? In a world where movies often run on show, here's a man who dares to bare his soul. And when an artist does that, everything changes. It gives the work an authenticity that can't be faked. You can feel it in every frame, every glance, every pause in the dialogue. And it's not just about being Taiwanese, being gay living in the 1980s. At its core, it's about humanity, about nostalgia, about loss, about the fact that love, whether it's built or broken, leaves a lasting mark. That's why audiences around the world, even those who have never set foot in Taiwan, cried as if it were their own story. Because in many ways, it is. When you watch a story that's born from real life, does it move you differently than one that's just woven from fiction? Do you believe that truth, when woven into art, carries a heavier weight in the heart? However, let's not forget that such honesty comes at a price. For the director, revisiting these memories must have been painful. To take one's own pain and expose it to the world, can you imagine the courage it took? And yet, that's what turned a personal diary into a global phenomenon. So next time you watch Birdie and Ahan, remember this: you're not just watching characters in love, you're watching the echoes of a director's youth. A love that once burned brightly but couldn't survive the world around it. You're watching truth dressed up in cinematic clothing. And it's that truth that makes Your Name Engraved Herein unforgettable. How did this story touch you? Did you see yourself in Ahan's quiet devotion, or in Birdie's struggle between love and fear? Or maybe you saw someone you once knew, someone you once loved. Share your thoughts. I want to know how this film touched your life. Because that's the gift of this story. It connects us. Across oceans, across generations, across identities. It reminds us that love, in all its forms, leaves an everlasting mark, not just on names, but on hearts. For many, Your Name Engraved Herein is more than a movie. It's a mirror. In it, we see pieces of ourselves, or perhaps versions of ourselves we never had the courage to be. It doesn't allow us to change. That's the power of Liu's choice to be true to his story. By daring to be vulnerable, he created something lasting. What started as something deep and personal became something that resonated far beyond him. That's why people everywhere are still discovering it, still sharing it, still crying with it. Where are you listening to this story? In your bedroom, on a night train, sitting in a coffee shop? Wherever you are, do you feel like Liu's story has found you? And as we move forward, we'll explore deeper layers of this unforgettable journey. Follow me, because the story doesn't end here. It only gets deeper. By this point, the film has gone beyond the framework of a simple love story between two boys. It has become something much bigger, a cultural and social milestone, leaving its mark not only in Taiwan, but also across Asia and touching the hearts of people all over the world. This is not just a boys' love fan film, nor is it a fleeting romance. It has become reflecting the struggles, hopes, and hidden truths of an entire generation. As the audience watches Ahan and Birdie face their own fears, many realize that they are also facing their own fears. Have you ever watched a film that made you feel like it was shining a light on your heart? If so, what was it? One of the most profound impacts of this film is on the LGBTQ+ community in Taiwan. While often hailed as one of the most progressive societies in Asia, Taiwan's progress didn't happen overnight. It was built through stories, voices, and moments that gradually reshaped the way people think. For many queer viewers, watching Your Name Engraved Herein wasn't just entertainment, it was catharsis. It reminded them that their love was real, their feelings were genuine, and their existence was worthy of respect. Some even confessed, "This was the first time I actually saw myself on the big screen." Have you ever had that experience, seeing yourself portrayed in art in a real way? This film challenges the stereotype that boys' love films are just made to please fans, or that they exist as fantasies far removed from reality. Instead, it proved that queer stories can be art too. Serious, meaningful, and culture-shaping. Through Ahan and Birdie's story, the world saw that boys' love is more than just a genre. It is a platform for telling human stories that have global impact. What do you think? Should love stories be judged by who loves who, or by the sincerity and authenticity of the story itself. In Taiwan, the film was not only a box office success, it also became a hot topic of discussion on social media. Teachers, parents, and young people all began to discuss the meaning of true love in a society still struggling with traditional expectations. The film came out at a time when Taiwan had legalized same-sex marriage, but personal stories and life experiences still needed to be heard. That's exactly what Ahan and Birdie brought to them. They're no longer just characters on screen, they've become symbols of courageous love. And the impact doesn't stop in Taiwan. Across Asia, where same-sex relationships are often stigmatized or censored, the film opened doors. It showed audiences that queer Asian cinema can compete globally, that stories rooted in our culture and history can touch people everywhere. Ahan and Birdie have become icons not only of Taiwanese cinema, but also of Asian LGBTQ+ love stories on the international stage. Have you ever thought about how art from a small place can spread out and touch lives far and wide? For many queer people across Asia, the experience of watching the film was deeply personal. Some say it gave them the courage to come out to their families. Others say the film gave them hope that they could one day live freely. Some simply cried because they felt visible for the first time. Visibility, that's what this film has given to so many people who have been invisible for so long. Can you imagine the feeling of finally seeing your truth spoken, not whispered in fear? This is why Your Name Engraved Herein is so important. It's not just a love story. It's a work of art that provokes conversation, challenges stereotypes, and offers comfort to those who need it most. Through Ahan and Birdie, the film has given us more than just characters. It has given us symbols of courage and devotion. And perhaps that's its greatest gift. Not just a moving story on screen, but a source of strength for those who find the courage to be their true selves. Think about it. How often do we overlook the power of cinema? A true story can change culture and give people courage. Your Name Engraved Herein is proof that love, in its purest form, can break down barriers that politics and laws cannot. Do you believe that art still has the power to change society, even in today's noisy digital world? And let's not forget the younger generation. The teens and young adults who watched this film and felt their hearts flutter. For them, Ahan and Birdie were not just tragic lovers, but a promise that their own future would have room for honesty, for courage, and for a love that didn't need to be hidden. How powerful is that? Can you recall a moment in your youth when a story gave you a strength you didn't know you had? Where are you watching video today, and how does this story make you feel? Do you see echoes of your own journey in Ahan and Birdie's struggle, or does it remind you of someone you know? Share your story. I'd love to hear it. The story of Ahan and Birdie speaks the timeless language of love, and that's why the film continues to move audiences years after its release. But the magic doesn't stop on screen. Stay tuned as we explore the actors behind these roles and the real-life experiences that give their performances such depth. Let's take a break from the story and step into the real world, because behind the unforgettable characters of Ahan and Birdie are two talented actors who have dedicated themselves to shaping the way the world experiences Your Name Engraved Herein. First, let's talk about Edward Chen, the man who brought Ahan to life. Did you know that Edward actually started out as a singer before officially entering the world of acting? His journey into film and television has been marked by bold choices, especially when it comes to LGBTQ+ roles. And here's something very personal. Edward's older sister is openly lesbian. That family connection has given him a deep understanding of what it means to be authentic in a world that doesn't always accept you. When asked about his process, Edward once said, "Every LGBTQ+ character I've played is a person, not a stereotype." That statement alone shows us how much he cares about representing truth rather than falling into cliches. And now, let's turn our attention to Tseng Jinghua, the talented young actor who plays Birdie. Tseng isn't someone who just memorizes lines and shows up on set. He does his homework. To get into the role, he actually went to gay bars, listening, observing, and learning. He wanted to feel the heartbeat of the community, to understand what love, confusion, and longing really mean to the people who live it every day. That kind of preparation is rare, and it's a big part of what makes his performance feel so authentic and unforgettable. And here's what many fans can't stop talking about: chemistry. Although Edward and Tseng are just colleagues in real life, friends who always support each other on set, their on-screen bond is so real that fans all over the world can't help but ship them. Have you ever shipped a couple to the point of madness, even though you know it's not real? Leave a comment below and let me know which fictional couple has stolen your heart before. I'm curious to know if Ahan and Birdie are on your list. But beyond the fan culture and excitement, there's something truly groundbreaking here. Previously, many actors worried that taking on boys' love roles might hurt their careers or be unfairly stereotyped. However, Edward and Tseng approached their characters with respect, dignity, and courage. They not only acted, but also honored the humanity of Ahan and Birdie. And in doing so, they helped reshape the conversation around boys' love, proving that a powerful love story transcends all stereotypes and deserves to be told with pride. Think about it. How often do we see actors willing to risk being misunderstood just to deliver a meaningful story? Does that courage inspire you? And if it were you, would you dare to take on a role that could touch hearts and inspire change, even knowing that it might be criticized? Share your thoughts with me in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Edward and Tseng remind us that authentic acting is rooted in empathy. Edward doesn't just play Ahan. He lives within his own silence, shaping it with fragments drawn from the real life around him. Tseng, on the other hand, embraces the role with humility, stepping outside his own boundaries to understand what love and fear mean in a different light. Together, their performances don't just tell a story, they bring to life a heartbreakingly real love, a longing that lingers long after the film's end. And don't forget, you, the audience, are a part of this too. Without your tears, your discussions, your debates, this film would not have reached such heights. Which moment between Ahan and Birdie resonates with you the most? Is it the silent glances, the pain of parting, or the bittersweet ending that lingers long after the film ends? Share your answer, because your story is now a part of theirs. Their performances resonated far beyond the screen. Every interview, every word they said about the project, reassured the audience that love stories like this were worthy of appreciation. It wasn't just acting, it was implicit support. And perhaps that's why so many viewers were not only moved, but understood. As you watched their journey, did you feel understood? Did it stir something in you? Perhaps a memory of your own first love, or someone you longed for but couldn't hold on to. That's the power of storytelling. When done right, it transcends time and culture, touching the hearts of us all. As we wrap up this part of the story, remember, Edward Chenhao-sen and Tseng Jinghua did more than act. They opened doors, built bridges, and created a safe space where audiences could cry, heal, and see themselves reflected. What they stand for beyond the screen is just as powerful as what they brought to life within it. And that is why Your Name Engraved Herein is more than just a film. It is a voice that continues to resonate. So stay with me as we peel back another layer of this story. Together, we'll explore how the cultural and historical context of 1980s Taiwan gave the film its appeal. transforming it from a romance into a reflection of a generation's struggle for freedom and love. And from there, we'll see how Your Name Engraved Herein transcended the screen, sparking conversations and inspiring a community to believe in the courage of their own love. When the screen fades to black, the story is not over. With Your Name Engraved Herein, the final scene is just the beginning. More than a boy's love drama, it has become a cultural landmark, a living memory, and a voice carrying the hope and sadness of a generation that dared to love in silence. It is important to understand that Taiwan, long before it became the first country in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage in 2019, was a society of silence and restraint. Families carried unspoken expectations. Religion weighed heavily on the hearts of young people. And for many, love itself became something forbidden. In this silence, Ahan and Birdie's love emerges, not as a fantasy, but as of countless untold stories. Their journey is fictional, but it breathes truth into the millions who have, and still do, live with similar struggles. Have you ever seen a film that seems to open up emotions you never dared to voice? A story that gave voice to emotions you thought were yours alone? If so, which story was it? Share in the comments, because often art is what frees us before society does. The power of Your Name Engraved Herein lies in its dual nature. It is at once a tender and tragic love story between two men and a record of social change. By capturing both the intensity of love and the weight of repression, the film becomes a witness to the long and painful road toward acceptance. For Taiwan, it echoes as both memory and prophecy. For Asia, it stands as a challenge, urging society to look within and confront the truths it has long tried to deny. Think about it. Why did audiences across Europe, North America, and Latin America mourn Ahan and Birdie? Many had no connection to Taiwan's history, but their hearts still ached. The reason is simple. Love and loss speak a language deeper than words. The details may originate in one place, but the emotions resonate across borders. Isn't it remarkable that a story rooted in one nation's past can touch the hearts of the world? That's what makes a legend. This film endures because it doesn't have an easy ending. Ahan and Birdie don't have a fairy tale. They never walk off into the sunset together. Instead, their love is left unfinished, lingering in memory. And strangely, it's that unfinishedness that makes it unforgettable. Happy endings allow us to move on, but unfinished stories stay with us. They leave us with questions, longings, and what-ifs that never fade away. Tell me, how do you feel? Do heartbreaking love stories last longer than those that end in happiness? Or is it the joy that makes love unforgettable? Share your thoughts with me, because here, there is no right or wrong, only your truth. The film not only captivated audiences, it also left its mark on politics and culture. It came out at a time when Taiwan was proudly stepping forward for LGBTQ+ rights, but many parts of Asia were still struggling. In that sense, the film became a form of silent activism, not through slogans or speeches, but through empathy. It said, "Look into these eyes, feel this pain, and understand that behind every argument are sincere hearts." Today, Ahan and Birdie live on beyond the screen. They are not just characters, but icons. For those who have hidden their truth, they are symbols of recognition. For those who have lost loved ones, they are companions in grief. For those still searching for courage, they are beacons. Their love may be limited, but their legacy is limitless. To everyone watching video, what did this film awaken in you? Did it bring you back to a love you once knew, or stir up a memory you thought was lost? Please share with us, because every story told keeps this film alive, and every voice contributes to its heartbeat. What lasts is not fame or awards, but the hearts that are touched, the courage that is aroused, and the tears that are remembered. The story of Ahan and Birdie lives on because we carry it with us. Some loves last, some fade, but the unfinished ones leave the deepest scars. And that is why Your Name Engraved Herein will never truly end. Thank you so much for watching today's video. How did this story make you feel? Did it touch your heart, or perhaps inspire you? And if you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and watch more meaningful stories right here on our channel. See you in the next video. Stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.